at 6 o'clock, the convening of the Board of Trustees of Colerain Township. And Heather, call for the roll call, please.
Mr. Inscoe?
Present.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Present.
And Mr. Unger?
Here.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Jeff Knowles.
Thank you, Mr. Rajagopal. Good evening, Board. This evening, we're going to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary here. We're going to begin the meeting with a very special ceremony for the first responders and the citizens who provided care to Colerain Police Officer Dale Woods on January 4th, 2019. With that, I'll bring up Chief Mark Denny to preside over the ceremony. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending. Frank, did you want to take some time? Fire Chief Frank Cook and I both have presentations. I'll go ahead and get started if that's all right. In the months since the tragic passing of Police Officer Dale Woods, stories of bravery have surfaced that made it obvious that we needed to take a moment to recognize the service of several employees and the decency of citizens. We all remember the details of that terrible night, but I believe there are some very important facts that many did not know. As important as it is to remember Dale, it's also important to highlight the incredible actions of those we honor tonight. First, we will award the very first Dale J. Woods Citizen Award. This award will become an annual presentation to a citizen who goes above and beyond what is expected, whether they risk their lives for another or embody the spirit of self-sacrifice that Dale had. We will recognize these wonderful citizens for their actions. And how fitting is it that the very first Dale J. Woods Citizen Award go to the man who selflessly ran to Dale's aid in his time of need. Robert Allen works for Duke and was repairing the damage that was caused by the crash on Colerain Avenue on January 4th. Colerain Police Officer Dale Woods was providing protection for Mr. Allen and his crew as they worked in the rain to restore power to our citizens. Sadly, Mr. Allen witnessed a collision that ultimately took Dale's life. Rather than return to his duties and wait for someone else to help, Mr. Allen ran to Dale's side as our officers performed CPR. Mr. Allen operated the police radio to ensure that help was coming, and when he saw that our officers were fatiguing from CPR, he took over until our wonderful fire department could respond. And ironically, Mr. Allen and Dale switched roles of protector in just seconds that evening. When the fire department arrived, Mr. Allen and the officers brought Dale from a complete cardiac arrest to having a pulse. One vivid memory I have from that evening was the trauma surgeon telling me that it's exceedingly rare to see a patient go from a complete cardiac arrest on the street to making it through their very first surgery. And he said any hope that Dale had was a direct result of those very first few minutes. After Dale passed, I called Mr. Allen, and he seemed genuinely surprised to hear from me and can only offer condolences that he couldn't do more for Dale that night. Mr. Allen, you did much more than that, more than you could ever imagine. You gave my officer's family and his friends 3 days to be with him, to tell him that we loved him and that we cared for him, all because you took the time out of your day to help someone else. Would you please step forward? On behalf of the police department, Dale's family, who's seated here to the right in the board of trustees. Next, I'm going to present the very first Colerain Police Department Meritorious Service Award. Alex and Adam, will you step forward, please? Alex Malloy and Adam Wood were working alongside Dale on the night of the crash in January. Both witnessed the crash and were the first to be by his side. And I'm going to read from the award in just a moment. The Colerain Police Department Meritorious Service Award is presented to Colerain Police Officers Alex Malloy and Adam Wood for their commitment to the citizens and the officers of Colerain Township. On January 4th, 2019, Officer Wood and Malloy were assisting other officers at the scene of a traffic crash on Colerain Avenue. Colerain Police Officer Dale Woods was struck by a passing vehicle and had no pulse and was not breathing. Officer Adam Wood and Alex Malloy immediately responded, summoning medical aid and beginning life-sustaining care to Dale Woods. Through their heroic efforts, Dale Woods was resuscitated and transported to University Hospital. Sadly, Officer Woods passed away on January 7th, 2019. Because of their actions, Officer Dale Woods' family, friends, and co-workers were given the time to have their final moments with Dale, hold his hand and tell him goodbye. Officer Wood Malloy, through their actions, gave an unforgettable and treasured gift to those who loved Dale. Their efforts demonstrated a level of dedication and professionalism expected of the police officers of Colerain Township. Their actions as police officers on January 4th, 2019 are an example to the men and women who proudly wear the badge of Colerain Police Officer. Because of Officer Malloy and Wood's efforts, it's with tremendous honor and appreciation I present them both with the very first Colerain Police Department Meritorious Service Award. Alex, I know you both well enough to know that there's a small voice in your heads right now wondering if you actually deserve this recognition. You do. You both answered a question that most cops never get to answer in their entire career. Could I do my job when the face is unspeakable tragedy and danger? And you both now know that answer is yes. That means a great deal to your leaders, but most of all, it means a lot to yourselves and to those who serve next to you. I'm incredibly proud of both of you and the strength you showed that night, and especially the strength you showed those following terrible days as you put your grief and shock aside to take care of Dale's family. So all three of you, Mr. Allen, if you'd step forward again. As Dale's chief, I thank all three of you for the heroic and determined efforts you showed to save Dale's life. You brought honor to yourselves, to your professions, and to your families. And as Dale's friend, I can't ever thank you enough for providing me a chance to say goodbye to my friend. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by saying that while the jobs that we do, the services that we provide is to provide emergency victim care to the injured and sick day in and day out within this community, it's not every day that we have to care for one of our own. I've been in this business for 35 years now, and I can honestly say I've never had to care for an injured personal friend, co-worker of Colerain Township or any other agency that I've worked for. I can't imagine, when you're dealing with a very serious injured or ill person, there's a unique set of challenges that are associated with that care. Many of you have heard me say publicly day in and day out how proud I am of the employees of Colerain Fire and EMS. The professionalism, these guys are truly masters of their craft. So this evening I'd like to recognize the crews that gave extraordinary care to Officer Woods that evening by presenting them with the Outstanding Unit Citation. The award is presented to employees of the department who have participated in an action that contributed to the overall professionalism of Colerain Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services. At this time, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Matt Vangen, Tyler Seibel, and Steve Swetchenow to please come forward. We're actually missing one of our firefighter medics. He's out on an emergency call right now. These four individuals displayed professionalism, decisive action, and just, in my mind, extraordinary care to Officer Woods that evening. As Chief Denny stated, that the fact that, they were able to establish a pulse and get him to the ER, eventually to the ER, to be in the emergency room, and eventually to the operating room, and give Dale that chance, and his family that chance to spend with him. Firefighter paramedic Andy Meyer, so that there was an opportunity to say their final farewells to Dale. Again, we do this day in and day out, and the seriousness of runs, they vary, but to have to care for one of your own, a person that may be a personal friend, a person that you work with day in and day out, it just brings enormous challenges and stress to our employees. So like I said, this evening, we'd like to present the outstanding unit citation to these individuals. And I'll read the citation to you if you don't mind, please. On the evening of January 4th, 2019, Engine 26 and Medic 26 were dispatched to report of a police officer struck by a vehicle. Upon arrival, the victim, Colerain Police Officer Dale Woods, was being tended to by Colerain police officers who were on the scene, as well as a bystander who witnessed Officer Woods being struck. Engine 26 and Medic 26 conducted a rapid triage of Officer Woods' injuries, and upon determining the scope and depth of his injuries, rapidly transported Officer Woods and initiated further treatment, including advanced life support measures, while en route to University of Hospital Medical Center, the region's only Level 1 adult trauma center. The combined efforts of the Colerain Police Department, a selfless bystander, the Hamilton County Communications Center, Engine 26 and Medic 26, and the University of Cincinnati Medical Center provided Officer Woods with the immediate life-saving care in addition to advanced life support measures and emergency surgery within the golden hour, the benchmark for urgent trauma patients to receive rapid medical and surgical treatment. The swift, decisive actions and the determination by the crews of Engine 26 and Medic 26 in the face of the conditions present reflect the highest tradition of professionalism and best practices found within the Colerain Township Department of Fire and EMS and the American Fire Service. Gentlemen, thank you for your service and a job well done that evening.
I want to thank our police officers, our firefighters, for the great service that we do for our Colerain Township. I'm also very proud of our department, fire department, police department, the outstanding service they do for our community. I pray to God they continue to do. I also pray for their safety. Thank you, gentlemen. The next on the agenda, Victor.
Go ahead.
We are, next on the agenda, we are going to convene for the executive sessions. Mr. Mills? would
Yes,
you-
sir. I recommend that the board go into, make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment and compensation of public employees. Also, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation with the township. And also in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8, to discuss confidential information relating to a specific business strategy and to discuss negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance.
I would motion that we do such a thing.
I'll offer a second.
Any discussions?
And not from I.
Only discussion, the AC's not working right now, so if anybody's hot and uncomfortable, there's a reason for that. We didn't do that on purpose, but we're working on fixing it right now.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
We should be back 7 o'clock for our trustee meetings.
And
The executive sessions, Heather, would you please? All roll call.
Mr. Insco?
Here.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Here?
Mr. Mills,
there's nothing to report from executive session.
in the report. Any discussions? Nothing?
No.
Okay. Let's move forward in our agenda. I want to thank all of the citizens come to the meeting. And we have the Pledge of Allegiance
Kadin.
and
Kadin.
Kadin
7:10.
Rioux would lead us to the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a silent meditation. We passed Memorial Day. Let's keep in our prayers and thoughts all the servicemen who served our country and gave us this great freedom. Thank you. Please be seated.
And thank you, Kadin.
Thank
Congratulations
you,
on your
Kadin.
Eagle Scout accomplishment.
Looks like
I'd
we'll
echo
be
that
back
sentiment. Congrats, Kaden.
in a few minutes.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 14th, 2019.
Yes, the May 14th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
I would motion that we approve the May 14th minutes.
I second it.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
I think you made one correction.
I
on the-
did, and I-
Okay, thank you. No other discussion from me?
No other discussions, please?
It's just a typo, so.
Okay.
Mr. Insco? Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Wonderful. Here they are for your signature.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for the Northbrook Lighting District, Niagara and Adair. This is a great moment for me. I was really started this. It happened. Thank you.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Mills so that I can take minutes because it's hard to talk and type at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rajagopal and board. This evening, we're going to have a public hearing on the establishment of a new lighting district in Northbrook neighborhood on the streets of Niagara and Adair. But we're going to begin by, if there's anybody who's going to give testimony at the public hearing, if you could stand up and be sworn in. Is anyone planning on giving testimony this evening for the public hearing? Okay, so, no. If nobody's going to, I would recommend opening the public hearing.
I motion that we open it?
Yes.
I motion that we open a public hearing on the Northbrook Lighting District.
Hold on for a second.
Any discussions?
None from I.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
So we got the,
He's going to tell us what's next.
Okay, so seeing nobody coming forward to give testimony on this public hearing, I recommend closing the public hearing.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second the motion.
any discussions?
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
It's great.
Very good. So just to be clear, there was a gentleman who's affiliated with a Greater Northbrook group who has done incredible work in and around the Northbrook neighborhood of Colerain Township. This was an incredible amount of work. They knocked on every door in the district. They were able to achieve a greater than 50% of folks that were interested in establishing this lighting district. It really is a testament to all the work that's been going on in Northbrook. The safety and aesthetic improvements that are going to come to that neighborhood as a result of this are going to be noteworthy, to say the least. It's really, we're fortunate to have so many wonderful people doing so much wonderful work in the township. So with that, I think we can.
Would you please step forward? People involved in that, getting signatures. Step forward, please. We want to recognize.
If they don't want to step forward, they can just wave their hand.
Oh, wave their hand. That's all right. Just
It's a humble group.
humble group.
Thank you all for your hard work. This is truly a community effort, and you guys never seem to fail to amaze me.
You guys did amazing work. This is the beginning for the Northbrook. There should be light. We'll have a great neighborhood. Thank you.
That's right. There you go. So the recommendation then, having had the public hearing, is to approve a resolution for the street lighting Northbrook district. It was included in the agenda packet.
Yes, Mr. Motion.
I would motion that we approve it as written in the agenda.
For a second.
Any discussions?
Not from us.
Not from I.
It's a great monumental work for that neighborhood. Heather?
Right. Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And here is that resolution for your signature.
A lot of hard work went into that. A lot of hard work.
Yes. The next on the agenda is presentations.
Yep.
The presentation from U.S. Census Representative Lauren Taylor.
Mr. Rajagopal, I'm working right now to get this up on the screen, and I'm having some trouble. So could we go to the swearing in of a new police officer?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is swearing in of a new police officer.
Good evening.
As she's making her way up here, I just wanted to thank the board for supporting the Greater Northbrook as a tremendous goal that they had, and it's going to make a big difference on our part for our ability to fight crime back here. So thank you, and thank you guys for all the efforts that you put
Thank you,
into
Chief.
it. Well, I'll bring Morgan Zizer in front of you. You approved her 2 weeks ago at our last meeting. Morgan is a 2016 graduate of East Central High School. 2016 graduate.
Wow. You didn't waste any time.
And she's a 2018 graduate of UC, where she received an associate's degree in criminal justice. She's also a 2018 graduate of Butler Tech Police Academy. And before joining us, she was a police officer in Ross Township, so we stole her away, and we're very lucky to have her. So if she still wants to do this, we'll swear her in here. Upwards, sir? solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio and its bylaws.
the Constitution of the State of Ohio and its bylaws.
I will abide by the Colerain Police Department
I will abide by the Colerain Police Department
mission and value statement,
mission and value statement,
code of ethics,
code of ethics,
rules and regulations,
rules and regulations,
policy and procedure.
and policy and procedure.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
in and for Colerain Township,
and in Fort Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the family.
That's right. Okay, Mr. Rajagopal, I do have the presentation ready for Census 2020.
How you doing? Good. Thanks for being here.
Yep, if you just let me know.
Wonderful. So good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Lauren Taylor. I'm a partnership specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau, which essentially means I'm a liaison between the census and the local communities. So I specifically work within Hamilton and Claremont counties. And my goal today is just to provide a brief overview of the 2020 census, kind of what to expect, and some ways that you can collaborate with us on the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. So we know that the U.S. Constitution requires a census of the population every 10 years, and that's a count of all persons in the United States. So obviously, it's a huge undertaking. Next slide. And as I'm sure you're aware, census results are important and are used in various ways. So there are four main ways the data are used: apportionment, redistricting, planning, as well as funding. So in terms of apportionment, after the 2010 census, Ohio actually lost 2 seats in the House of Representatives, and there's a chance that Ohio could lose another seat after the 2020 census. So that's why getting this complete and accurate count is so important, because our representation matters. Next slide. In terms of funding, we know that census results determine how over $675 billion in federal funds are distributed annually. And many people may not realize how this can impact their everyday life. So these are funds for things like transportation, social service programs like WIC, and housing. It's used to determine funding amounts for Head Start and school lunch. And the funds are also used for healthcare services like EMTs and community clinics. And the list really goes on, so we can see how important these numbers are. Next slide. And so what does this mean for the state of Ohio? George Washington University conducted a study to estimate how much federal funding each state could potentially lose for each person that is not counted. And this is based on data from 16 of the largest federal assistance programs that use census-derived statistics. Wow. So for Ohio, that number is $1,814 per person per year. Wow. So if just 100 people are missed, that's obviously $181,400 of federal funds. But it's important to remember that these counts are used for a 10-year period. So over a 10-year time span, we're over $1 million at that point. And so it's really important for us to get this right. Wow. Next slide. And so there are certain groups that, for various reasons, have been hard to count historically. These groups are listed here, and I'm sure we could all list a number of reasons or factors that could contribute to that. For example, language barriers, lack of knowledge about what the census is, or even just simply fear. And so I just want to note that the information collected by the Census Bureau is only used to produce statistics. It's actually illegal for the Bureau to disclose or publish any personally identifiable information. Every Census Bureau employee takes an oath not to do so, and to violate that oath is a federal crime. So we essentially work with community partners, trusted community voices to reach these groups. We just want our partners to spread the message that the census is easy, safe, and important. Next slide. So this is a little hard to see, but one tool available to partners on our website is something we call ROAM, Response Outreach Area Mapper. This map pulls together data from surveys administered by the Census Bureau and gives each tract a low response score. So it essentially shows what percentage of the population is unlikely to respond. So community partners can use this tool when planning outreach or promotion efforts leading up to 2020. So here I have a screenshot, and essentially the darker the color, the higher the low response rate. And if you were to click on certain census tracts, Roam would actually show you demographics of the population, such as age groups, languages spoken, the number of households that are renter occupied, and other household characteristics. And so these demographics are not meant to be, perfect predictors, but just to give some insight. And this information, in addition to your local knowledge, could give you an idea of what groups or communities should be a focus for outreach. Next slide. So let's focus in on 2020. Next slide. The goal, so first census day is April 1st, 2020. The goal of the 2020 census is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. And we're really working to ensure a complete and accurate count. So there are a few new features of the 2020 census that I want to mention. For 2020, we'll be launching a robust outreach campaign using both traditional media as well as new media outlets to ensure that everyone sees census messaging. 2020 will actually be the first year where people can respond online, so there will be a self-response online option, and we're encouraging people to use that. And overall for 2020, we're really utilizing a lot of automated systems for recruiting and training to make the process more efficient. Next slide. So also, kind of small, but this is just an overview of our operational timeline. So over the past few months, partnership specialists such as myself have started reaching out to local governments and key partners to just kind of get the ball rolling. In August, so this summer, we'll begin our address canvassing, and that's when census employees will be out double checking our address lists, addresses that we maybe weren't able to confirm using other data sources. So you may see people out and about during that time conducting those checks. We're also in the phase of opening the area census offices, which I'll show a map of in a moment. In March of 2020, the invitation to respond to the census will go out across the nation, and March 12th is when that online survey will open. We're making it easy for people to respond anytime and anywhere. So as I mentioned online, they can also respond on the phone, through mail, or for those that do not respond for any of those options, in person with a census taker. So that non-response follow-up where census takers go door to door starts in May of 2020. Next slide. So this is a map of the Ohio area census offices that will be opening for 2020. There will be 8 Ohio census offices covering different portions of the state, so there will be one in Cincinnati. Currently, Columbus is the only one open, and the others will be opening this fall. So how can you support the 2020 census? We just want to encourage everyone to collaborate with us. And there are several ways to collaborate with us on promotions as well as operations. So first and foremost, inviting census representatives to speak at meetings and events, any opportunity to continue to spread awareness. And connect us with others in your network that may be interested in partnering with us. Encourage your community to participate in the census. This can take many forms, like posting on websites, social media, or including census messaging in events like festivals or fairs, kind of anything upcoming that may be a great opportunity to spread the word. And you can also help us promote census jobs through your network and any organizations. So hiring is happening now for those census offices, as well as our early operations, so those address canvassing positions. Our goal is to, of course, hire locally, people that are familiar with the area. You can help by posting the application links on your website and social media, sharing throughout your networks, and I have plenty of flyers that can be posted in any kind of general community gathering spaces. We also have recruiting assistants available that can attend job fairs or even host job application workshops where they actually walk folks through the application. And then we also encourage groups to consider establishing a complete count committee to encourage census participation in their area. Next slide. So in terms of complete count committees, these are essentially just a volunteer group of folks established by local governments or even community leaders. This was an initiative that they started in 2010 and found that it was key to increasing the response rate by spreading awareness and motivating communities to respond. So we're encouraging groups to consider establishing a CCC, as they're called, to increase the response rate in their communities. So essentially, 4 steps to establishing one of these groups. The first is just identifying a chair and the members. Each group determines, who that membership is based on their local knowledge, what makes the most sense. The second step is to host a training. So the Census Bureau would provide a training for the members that essentially gives them an overview, deep dive into the 2020 census, so they're knowledgeable and able to answer any questions, almost like census ambassadors for your local community. Then the third step is this group would come together and develop a 2020 census work plan. So the work plan would establish the goals, identify those hard-to-count populations in the area, develop a plan to promote the census, tailored to the unique characteristics of that particular community. And then the last step is essentially implementing the work plan, doing those outreach activities that have been identified leading up to 2020. The partnership specialist serves as a liaison between the group and the Census Bureau, answering any questions, but the group obviously has complete ownership of the CCC in whatever activities that they want to do. Next slide. And so this image is just an example to give you an example of the type of groups that could be involved. We have faith-based organizations, philanthropic, business, schools. This is just an example, and even though it's a government-led example, any group or community leader could decide to form a CCC. Perhaps there's an existing task force or coalition that could serve as a CCC, and they could just add 2020 to their list of their agenda or current projects that they're working on. We just encourage groups to consider having diverse representation so there are different perspectives at the table. And it really doesn't have to be a lot of work. This is just kind of organized way of mobilizing resources to make sure that everyone in the community is aware and in turn, hopefully, more likely to respond. So what now? Next slide. So 2020 is around the corner. It may seem like it's a number of months away, but that's going to be here before we know it. And we're really just trying to plant the seed now so for people to start thinking about, what's happening in the summer, what's happening in the fall, how can we incorporate census messaging. So we encourage everyone to prepare now by identifying resources for their census promotion efforts, coordinate with other groups and organizations in your area, especially those that serve or work with those hard-to-count populations. The CCCs are forming now, so if that's something of interest, identify a lead and we can help get that person started. And just remember that the partnership specialists, like myself, are really here to help, to kind of connect you with any information that you may be looking for as you promote the census. So it's really up to all of us to, educate and motivate our constituents, our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues to respond and participate in the census. So we just encourage you to become a 2020 census partner and help us achieve that complete and accurate count. Next slide. So really quickly, I just want to mention that on our website, we have a number of resources available, social media graphics, fact sheets, infographics, you name it. So I can definitely help you find anything that you might be looking for. Next slide. And then lastly, if you're really into data and want to take a deep dive, we have some information on our website to learn more about census data. You can connect with a data expert, and there's also some data academies on there if that's something that would be of interest. So here's my contact information, as well as contact information for our general operations and recruiting, but I can always connect you, our social media sites, and then of course you can always find out more information at census.gov/2020 census. Thank you.
Wow. Holy moly. I don't know where to begin. I wasn't about to interrupt you, though, I promise you that. $1,800 per person. Holy moly, that's alarming. A quick question, though. Do you have to follow no soliciting laws when you're going door to door?
No.
No, interesting. Okay. Can someone help me out if we need to get them a badge or anything? Just so the problem we're having right now in some of our more walkable neighborhoods is people, electric aggregation, people selling cookware. We're still getting a lot of these complaints.
Right.
And so I don't want you guys to come across any more hurdles than you're already going to come across. You know what I mean? But yeah, if there's any way we can get this out, obviously through Circle, through the website, by all means, unbelievable.
Definitely, we'll have examples of, what the person's badge will look like,
Okay.
what the form will
Yes,
look
please.
like, to help people be able to identify it. And there's even like a hotline if you're unsure and kind of want to verify whether, this is a scam or, verify this person. We'll have that available as well.
What about no trespassing signs? Is that still be held to that?
I mean, if
My goal was to ask you one question you don't know today, and I'm hoping that.
I mean, so ideally what we want to let people know is that if you don't want anyone to knock on your door, respond early on.
Perfect.
If they respond online, on phone, by mail, those folks will not come. Those door-to-door the door-to-door is for people who have not responded.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Can they do code enforcement while they're out there? Is there too soon?
You're an excellent presenter. and
Yes, very good.
Very good delivery.
You
and
really
very
are.
good
You're-
inflection with
you
your
found
voice.
your calling. You're great.
Thank you.
Brilliant presentation.
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again.
Thank you,
And then
ma'am.
I'll leave my card outside if anyone is interested and has any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
again.
Thank you, ma'am. The next on the agenda is recognition of Kadin Rioux, is achievement of Eagle Scout.
Yes, sir. Kadin, would you like to come forward? So this is a really special event. I was a Boy Scout and I never earned the Eagle Scout. I made it to Life Scout, and it's one of those things that was on my bucket list and I'll never be able to check it off. What you did was a significant achievement for you, but also for our community. I understand that your Eagle Scout project involved Clippard YMCA. So thank you for giving back to the community. As a token of our appreciation for your achievement, the board has a letter that goes like this. Dear Eagle Scout Rioux. The Colerain Township Board of Trustees is honored to congratulate you for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. We understand that you managed the building of additional seating along with the refinishing of existing seating for the amphitheater used by the Clippard YMCA Summer Youth Program. We thank you for the commitment and leadership that you have demonstrated to achieve this rank, and we are proud to have you as a member of our community. Your achievement proves that you possess the values and integrity to be a future leader, hopefully here in Colerain Township, and that you will be successful in the path that you choose. Best wishes, Colerain Township Board of Trustees.
Well said. Thank you.
I think we need a motion to, congratulations.
We'll take a picture.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come down.
We'll come down.
Very good.
Not the Jeff though. He was life master. In true fashion, they have a troop meeting to get to, so.
I think we're going to motion to, I'm going to go ahead and, do we need to, it's on the agenda, so I just need to motion to approve it. I would motion that we approve the letter as Mr. Mills has prepared it.
I'll offer second.
Any discussions?
None from I.
I have a comment. I'm really proud of you. Very proud. You did a hard work, and it shows your character. Just serving the people, serving the community. And we need such kind of leaders for our community. You're the future leader, buddy. We need you. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the parents who will guide you to this direction. Thank you so much for coming to this meeting.
Congrats again.
Call for a vote.
Okay, call for vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good, and we'll be mailing the official letter to you, okay? And I will also mention that Kadin isn't the first Rioux that has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. His brother also achieved the rank of Eagle
Nice,
Scout,
nice.
which is pretty cool. I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the presentations for this evening.
The next will be our citizens' address. Like in the past meetings, you all been very kind, and we emphasize about 5 minutes address, and it has been very successful, and we are having a very meaningful meeting. I'd like to continue to follow that format and address your concerns, anything you have in your mind for the township. I'll go over the list here. First, I will call Ms. Stephanie Wright, please.
Good evening. I'll start with a couple of questions about the agenda this evening. I noticed on the planning and zoning for the declaring nuisance and abatement for properties, I mentioned this in the past, that a lot of these addresses are repeat offenders. And I just want to draw that to the attention of the board yet again. I would say half of them on this list have been cited once, if not multiple times, for this exact violation. I went onto the Hamilton County Auditor site just to double check that these abatements are being actually put onto those properties that are assessed. And there seems to be a issue with actually receiving the fine. So we spend a lot of time citing people, fining people, but we don't seem to be getting a lot in return. Some of these are delinquent back to 2016. So yes, we've done what we're supposed to do, but I was just wondering, what's the next step, or how can we start recouping the funds for all this time and energy on citing people?
I'm somewhat familiar with two cases where they were paid outside of being cited, one by the house on Springdale Road where they didn't want to have that attached, and the mortgage broker went ahead and paid it. The one out there past Broadmoor, that's why that never ended up on a site. I guess some of them might get paid outside of, before they're assessed. But
Okay.
I don't have that in front of me.
Right, but I'm just saying, I do see, maybe some concern here that not only do we cite them, we make it a resolution. I'm just concerned about the follow-up or the follow-through on it getting back into our township, fee assessment-wise. Additionally, tonight on the Northbrook Lighting District, I just want a little clarification on part of this that was attached to the agenda packet. It said, at this meeting, property owners in the proposed lighting district will be permitted an opportunity to speak. Was that just for people who live in that lighting district to participate in the public hearing, or would anyone have been allowed to do so?
I think we asked twice during the hearing for anybody in the audience that wanted
But
to
I'm just
speak.
reading to you what it says in the agenda packet, that the property owners were going to be permitted to speak.
I believe I said to everybody in the room, would you like to speak?
Okay, so this was just a typo or something that, okay, no idea. We've been talking about ways to get more residents to our meeting, newsletters, social media. We seem to be running hot and cold on keeping the theme going. I have emailed the Parks Department, who would be in charge of this marquees at the senior center and throughout our parks. And I've also emailed the Chief of Police about putting the trustee meetings upon our marquees that are throughout our township. Can we get this to be consistent? I drove past the senior center and I drove past Colerain Park, and both of those signs are blank. So I would like to see that maybe a little more consistency on getting those announcements up there to inform our residents of our meetings or any other important information.
Sure.
Fine with putting them up on there, but they're ineffective because they don't affect our attendance. We have the same, for years, we've had the same.
And I would disagree.
attendance.
I would disagree. We just had the Memorial Day thing posted on them all most recently, and since that was Monday, I guess they took them down after that event, and I guess since this is the day after, I guess it didn't get up for this particular meeting.
It doesn't, it happens a lot, though. So I appreciate that that might have been the
Right.
excuse.
Well,
or
I go past the one on Springdale at the park there, and I see it usually up.
Okay, because I'm just asking, could we
Yeah, we'll work
please
on that.
utilize that?
Sure.
Stephanie, it's a good idea also, we can ask some of the business community, there are the signs around the Colerain Avenue, like a North Cape Mall, there are big signs, they may put one flash, a trustee meeting like that.
That would be awesome.
Something is a good idea, we'll follow through.
I appreciate that. Also, I did watch the Memorial Day ceremony on TV. I was unable to attend. I would like to thank the servicemen, the residents, and the township employees and officials who took time out of their schedule to make that happen. I think it was very nice, and it seemed to be very well received. I've noticed again this evening that our department heads are not in attendance at the meeting, much less seated at the table up front. Residents have been asked to email or call during business hours to answer any questions that we might have. And I'd like to know what the board would find an appropriate length of time from a resident asking a question to actually getting an answer, not so much a response to the email that it has been received and thank you for your input, but what would be you think a good length period of time that a resident could respect an answer to a question?
I would think it would depend on the question. I've got one you sent me Friday with 26 addresses on it, and I haven't, that was Friday going into a holiday weekend, and I haven't gone out to look at those 26 addresses yet.
Property as well.
Over on Pippin Road? Yes, and our zoning department had contacted that person and told them to work on a couple items. So that was
great.
2 weeks
So if you
ago.
could just maybe, respond to a resident with that, I am working on it and it is in the works. I think that would be very much appreciated from the person who is reaching out to you through the channels that the board has requested.
Sure.
Colerain Township has a program that was implemented when Mr. Malloy was here. It's called We Thrive. I was wondering if the board has any update on that, who the person is who actually runs that for our township now, and when and where those meetings are held.
I'll go with Mr. Mills.
Sure. So Emily Randolph of our office has been heading that up, but we have not had many meetings recently. We were an early adopter to the We Thrive program and put out put a spotlight on our QRT, which is a national model that's used to combat the opioid addiction. In recent months, we haven't had any meetings.
Okay. Well, I just think maybe that would be a good initiative to revisit, especially with the presentation we have this evening with the Census Bureau. I kind of think that maybe those two might work hand in hand and help our community thrive as well as reach some other needs. And the last question I have this evening is when our command center, the resource center, I believe is what it's called, on Colerain Avenue, that is being bulldozed for development. And there were programs that were taking place on a pretty tight schedule in there for our community. And I was wondering when and where those have been now directed to, for where people could go and still participate in those things. Have those been moved?
That's probably more of a business day question for the administrator, but do you have an answer for that, Jeff?
Yep, it's still going on at the CRC.
Okay, so there's nothing moving or anything yet?
Well, not yet.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next is Sharon Slide.
Hello.
Hello, Sharon.
Couple things. Our roads are doing great. We got a little problem. They laid our curb last week, and the curb in front of my house is already cracking. I got a neighbor who's actually got chunks coming up out of hers. And when we asked the supervisor, it wasn't Crystal, it was some guy named, I think his name was Richie. When we asked him about that and if they were gonna fix it, he told us it's not his responsibility. They've done what they can. Contact Colerain Township. So now what do we do?
Huh? You just did it. You contacted us.
Did you contact Kevin? Did you
No,
contact
I was
our?
hoping he was here tonight because we just got that response today that they weren't gonna
Is
do
it cracked on the control joint, or is there like a baseball-sized chunk missing out of it, or?
My one neighbor has like, it's just like maybe a golf ball size chunks. There's more than one that's coming out of hers. Now mine just has straight line cracks coming right through it.
Is it where the joint was cut with a joint tool, or is it a random crack that's
No, it's just
kind
random.
of zigzag?
Random, and it's right in where my driveway is. So whenever I go in, I hit a nice crack.
You don't have a picture with you, do you, by chance?
Well,
Address?
I'm just gonna copy down your street address, and I'll ask Kevin about it.
I have the address here. I'll talk to Kevin, please.
Yes, I was hoping he was here so I could talk to him because, like I said, that supervisor said, it's Colerain Township problem, not ours.
We'll figure it out.
You just laid that last week. Why isn't it your problem?
That should be easy. We'll figure that out.
Concrete will crack. It's helpful if they tool the joints in it to correct, repetitive, like every 8 feet or every 6 feet, especially if you're in a radius. And the design is that it would crack on the joint that's tooled into it. If it didn't crack on that joint, and if there's multiple cracks, that's another issue. If there's one crack, as concrete cures and sets up, it'll find its weakest spot in that length, and that's where it'll crack at.
Yeah,
So
mine's
I'll
got a
ask
few
Kevin to
cracks.
take a look at it.
Few cracks in it, but not like the neighbor who's got chunks out of hers. Okay, my next thing is, over the weekend, we've had a lot of cars that were broken into and ransacked.
I saw that.
Last night, we had the incident on Linus. One thing is that we don't have any police back there. They're speeding up and down the street again. We have no police back there. I pay for my police department. I'm expecting them to be back there. Let's see, last year when I had a personal meeting with Chief Denny, I had asked him about putting police back there. His response was, we don't have enough police to patrol your area. Mysteriously, after Stacy and I get on the news about not having the police protection, all of a sudden we got police protection. And that lasted all last summer. We're back to no police protection again. They're back to breaking in our cars. They're having white people fighting black people back there with baseball bats. Where's our police? Don't tell me that we don't have enough cops. We do. Don't tell me and Stacy are gonna have to get on the news again and bitch again about the police department just so that we can get our protection.
They showed up last night, right, to that call?
Yeah, they showed up to that call, but where the hell are they when they can come patrol? You know, what about the nights before when all them people were breaking into all our cars?
We'll address this, ma'am.
Okay, in 2 weeks, I want an answer.
Okay, sure.
Because I always hear, we'll talk about it, we'll talk about
Are you
it.
specifically looking for where the police were last night, if they were on another call, or?
Oh, hell no.
No, they were
I don't care
there.
about where they were. No,
Okay.
I don't care about where they were.
Well,
I just want them to come through our area so that the people back there realize, I'm back knocking on people's windows again like I was last year going, hey, where do you belong? Where are you going? You know, you're sitting here smoking pot in your car. Do you belong back here? Last year I got in trouble for doing it by a couple cops because they said, you're going to get your ass shot. Well, here I am doing it again this year because, once again, no cops.
And please,
No
please make sure
control.
you report all the incidents.
I can call report them all I want, but all they do is tell me on the
Continue
phone.
to call and report them for
All
sure.
they say on the phone is, well, we ain't got enough cops. Well, if anything's stolen, don't worry about it. Well, by the time they get there, they're gone. But if we have police back there, that's the neighbors and people seeing, hey, these people have cops that are gonna come through and patrol, they might think twice before they're gonna do it again.
This of the Royal Heights area
Yeah.
predominantly.
Yeah, back in Jackie's, Royal Heights, Linus, yeah.
That's one of our goals this summer. We have a very aggressive patrolling around this neighborhood.
Yeah, and radar, because boy, they speeding once again. You know, we got the blacktop, so they're,
Now, that we knew it was going to happen. That's just the nature of it.
I love the girl that lost control of her car and ended up over on the curb and said, oh, I slid. Why the hell do you think you slid, you dumbass? You tried taking the bend going 40 miles an hour.
This is recorded and it's on TV, so please, language.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Next, Kathy Moore, please.
Hey, Ken.
Good evening.
Hello, Kathy.
A while ago, a couple of meetings ago, I gave you some information on the Ohio Open Meetings Act and gave you a copy of it. But I have a question in here. It says, executive sessions are closed-door sessions convened by the public body after a roll call vote and attended by only the members of the public body and any persons they invite. So, did you invite anybody else to attend your executive session?
Yes, we did.
I wouldn't answer that.
You talking about today's meeting? Yes.
Scott, what's the answer, Scott?
So,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, the answer is yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Yeah, there's no secret.
Additional secret?
No, but we did invite,
Scott
and
answered-
on the
Scott
discussion,
answered the
yeah, hold on, Dan. On the discussion, we cannot talk about the details.
Okay.
It's executive sessions. So we did, then we should stop from there.
and it's the subject of a lawsuit that Ms. Moore and
So
Ms.
the
Wright
Fed-
That's what I
filed
was gonna
against us.
ask, if it was the
Yeah.
attorney for that. Okay, so, I wanna give you something.
What you got for me?
Received prior, not from me,
Thank you.
and I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
What am I looking at here? It's kind of small.
It was a study for the training center that we did, and it cost us $12,877. And I'd like to know if you received it, if you contemplated anything by the information you got.
This has not been on the agenda, and I have not contemplated it. This is the first I've seen it.
Now, you did the study last year.
I didn't do it. The administration did it.
Well, shouldn't you know about it?
When the time is right.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know what,
so if there's no time right, we'll just never know about it?
no, it's when
Just ignore it.
when it's ready for it, it'll be on an agenda and presented to the board.
You think so?
I would think so, if he needs
think,
approval
Raj?
on something.
I mean, did you get this I mean, a
I
study
think
was
the-
done?
Okay, Danny, finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's something that we're working on this, the planning architect, and it's not final yet. There is some funding there, funding available. Then it was not in a conclusive yet. Still on the process of working on this
What is the
budget.
current status of the training center?
The training centers for these.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
training center is that we're talking about is a facility on Old Colerain Avenue, and it's used by our Department of Fire and EMS to train firefighters and paramedics.
But they eliminated that when they put the room downstairs. That
Who's
was for
they?
fire training, your last administration. That was
Yeah.
the purpose of building that room down there.
I'm sorry, you asked me what that facility is being used for, and then I just told you what the facility is being
Okay.
used for.
And I'm just saying that they built this basement to do the training, so they wouldn't have to use that.
I see.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Juanita, Sarge?
Good evening.
Good evening.
About 2 meetings ago, I asked if there was any way that you could create a living document like we do in corporate America. When these residents, including myself, come to the meetings, we never get the follow-up. We have to keep coming back up to the podium and saying, do you remember 3 meetings ago when you did blah, 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 and you'll go, no, or Jeff say, I don't remember, whatever. If you would create a living document, and only you 3 and possibly Jeff would be the only ones who could enter data into the living document. We as residents then get to go out there, like say tonight, You have a living document, and we say, we want to know about these 5 addresses. I want to know about the properties. I'm going to ask you about some properties, not residential, business properties. I'm going to ask you some other questions. Among yourselves, you should say, I'll be on task for that. I'll take that as my task. Then, in a week from now, I can go out and say, oh, Greg was on task to tell me or the community about the property of Toys R Us. His update is nothing to update. Okay, then I won't come up and ask you again because Greg looked at it. Greg was on task for it. He updated as nothing to contribute at this time. No update at this time. The response I got was from Mr. Mills was, well, we do that. No, what you do currently is a planning and, what did you call it? You called it a planning and an executive where the money's going in the community and you
Strategic
have a
planning.
priority
A
list.
strategic plan?
Strategic planning.
Strategic planning. I said, I'm not interested in that. I'm glad you have that. That's not what I'm interested in. We as a community have asked you for the last at least 7 or 8 meetings, certain specific things. And then we'll come back and we'll say, remember, and I don't expect you to remember everything. You're human. But if you had a living document and somebody documented, okay, on May 28th, these 7 items were asked by the community to get a response. Then I can go out and say, hell yeah, I was asking about this. Oh, nothing's happened on this. Oh, look at this. They're saying this is going to happen. They have updated this. Oh, well, look at this. Then after 3 or 4 months, I can come back and say, you know what? You keep putting out the same response, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I've waited 12 weeks now for an update on this task number 13 that was assigned to you, Raj. Why haven't you given it as an update? I think that would be something that would satisfy us as a community. We could watch, not overbear you, we could watch what the progress is of the tasks that we're asking you to perform. I don't think as a community we're asking you to perform anything that's outside the realm.
Let me stop you. Every meeting, after the meeting, what I do next, I call the leadership. What are the department, the problem is. I talk to them. They follow up. I talk right after the meeting, I'll call them. Any problems, especially the roads and any of the neighborhood, the police work, I'll call chief. Okay? We do follow through. I follow through. Dane follow through. Sometimes he goes to the address that people complain. He goes there.
I know, he's
Okay.
done that for me.
Yeah.
That's not, I guess, I'm not.
It's not that
I'm not
we
explaining what I want.
abandon or we ignore what the citizens comes and talk about in the meetings. We do follow through. I call Jeff Mills.
That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is for me to be able to see that you took, we'll just say an address. And all you do is say, we'll say 2121 Pippin Road, tall grass. Raj, update is, I went out to the property, I talked to the owner, turned it over to Jenna. The next thing, Jenna, update. I went and Chris went out and did this. The next update. So we can follow.
See, I write everything the citizens says in the meetings. I write.
Isn't that
follow
on
through.
our CSR?
Yeah, the online CSR will do all this.
So you could look, and it's not perfect, but,
No, that's just properties. I'm not talking about
right, you're talking about somewhat, generally,
Okay, like me. Let's say, okay, like Sharon just said. Okay, people are fighting out here and they're baseball bats and they're beating up windows. That would be something that you would assign to chief or chief would assign to somebody, and the update would be found out that there was a police officer back there. Sharon must have been in bed, or it was 2 a.m. or whatever. So we can follow certain things we're asking about, like McDogs. Okay, McDogs, somebody asked about, does he have a valid license? And how did he get a license between 1:30 up to 2:30? I would like to know the answer to that. Not that it's no big catastrophe or anything, but I would like to know that you as my board said, he did apply for the proper thing, this is the update, this is what happened, the resolution completed. And that's all I'm asking is, okay, one of my questions is going to be, what are you as our board members, what are you doing about all the properties, not people properties, business properties that are not being occupied. What are you doing as my board? Are you going out and trying to get businesses to come in? What businesses are they? Why am I not allowed to know who you're talking to? Why am I not allowed to know who you're having a talk with? So say somebody's coming in Toys R Us and say it's a Jumpaline. Okay, Toys R Us, update, Jumpaline Corporation out of New York possibly, okay, and then update, so I know what's going on. I really don't know what's going on in the community because there is
We
no
took under consideration. I would strongly advise, ask you please wrap it up, so that
That's
people
it.
can call. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very
And
much.
Jeff works on that type, that's what, one of Jeff Mills's duties is he's out presenting to different businesses and companies and.
We don't know that.
Well, and some of it is so preliminary, and that business might not want people to know that yet until the time is right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Raj.
Real quick,
I'm going to call on this next person. Okay, sorry. Linda, Gaggett, please. Yeah, Gaggett.
That's me. I just wrote it in because I thought that I may want to speak, but I'm actually going to donate my time to somebody that has something more important to say. Give me my 5 minutes, Carrie.
I don't know.
Carrie,
I'm
get
gonna
10
have
minutes.
this.
We'll see about that.
All right. Okay, 10 minutes. Carrie, you got 10 minutes. You take a little time.
That clock doesn't go that high.
Okay,
That clock only goes to
take
5.
those. Carrie, please.
Hello, Carrie.
You give me more homework.
Yeah, seriously.
A couple weeks ago, Kathy came in and she had asked you all where you stood on the issue of the Social Security funds. Dan, you said that you were told, excuse me, that it was too expensive and time-consuming, very complicated. Raj, you said something similar. Greg, you said, I'm still forming my opinion. You guys got notice on October 28th from the auditor's office. Have you made up your mind where you stand on this yet?
With regards to the Social Security, or
The Fireman's Pension Fund and the tax money?
I would leave that to our council.
Can I answer
I
that?
want to know what Greg, if Greg has formed an opinion. You guys each gave yours. I would like to know if Greg has formed an opinion on that
I'll
matter.
still form it.
Yeah.
You're still forming?
Yep.
And I have one other question before I start. You all said you were told, all three of you have said, I was told, each one of you. Who told you that it was too expensive, too complicated, and too time-consuming?
With regards to your earlier remark, I ascertained that on my own.
But you did say,
I've
was
heard
told.
from Kathy that it's around $60,000, and I don't think I said that, but it's around $60,000. I theorize that we would have to go back to 2015 and chase down those 28 or 30 people, however many it was, and then we would have to, the amount of money we would spend trying to straighten that out would probably be pretty close to $60,000. I concluded that on my own.
Okay. Raj, who told you that it would be too complicated? You mentioned that you spoke to the fiscal officer.
I spoke very lengthily with our fiscal officers and also our finance people.
Yes.
And there's twofold in that. The one that it happened 2015, which is, I was not a trustee at the time. What are the settlement they made? It's like a finished chapter. What they did, there's two funding they did.
I understand what happened. I just wanted
You know
to
the
know.
background of that. The money when to go back to Social Security, they're claiming that money, the people who worked there, they're no longer, it's not employee
Who
anymore.
told you this is what I want to know. Who told you that?
That, the finance department,
People in the finance department? And
Yeah.
Heather, who told you? You also made the same statement.
We all worked together on this,
Who's all? Pardon me?
the staff and myself.
your staff, did you consult the attorney?
Yes,
Did you discuss it with Jeff?
yes.
And everybody agreed that this was something, okay. Well, when I left the meeting, I'm extremely good at complex litigation and deciphering complex policy. That's how I got that 32 million bucks for Ohio families, was, figuring out complex litigation. And I thought, you know what, maybe I can help you guys to get this 60 grand back. And so I looked it up, and it's not complex, folks. It took me less than an hour to figure out how to do it, and I'm not that bright. But it takes less than an hour to find it. I also gave the IRS a call to confirm with them that I was understanding it correctly, because it seems so dang easy. And they confirmed, yes, I was correct. And it's a 3-page form that's in your packet. It is simpler than a 1040 that I've filled out for numerous people over the years. It's very, very simple. And then you would also have to reissue the WCs, or W2Cs, the corrective action. Many of you mentioned that we didn't have to do this. And one of the documents I provided you was a very simple directive that if you find an error on a previously filed Form 941, you must fill out the form. It's not an option. You're required under law to do it. It doesn't matter how expensive it is, how much time it takes, blah, blah, blah. And you are also required under the IRS laws, federal laws, to reissue W-2s. So you got 4 whole pages.
You're referring to this
including
941X, correct? That's the form.
941X.
941X.
That's all you
I wanna
had to
share
fill
that
out.
real quick, just so they know what you're
And so
referring
I
to.
was really excited that I would be able to help you guys get this resolved. It would take you probably less than 5 hours to reissue the W-2Cs and fill out page 941X. And then I found out, because people aren't forming their opinion very quickly, Greg, you've had over 6 months.
May take longer.
Legal counsel has not given a written opinion on it, but has advised. And we missed our statute of limitations April 15th. We had until April 15th
So
to
also-
fill out a 3-page document that would have gotten us $60,000. And nobody, if you got a far superior degree than me, if you couldn't figure this out, if nobody took the time, we have a lot of incompetence going on. So
Carrie,
almost done.
like I said, I want to have the meaningful dialogue, meaningful thing. I don't want to go out of the way and attacking people, the competence,
well,
incompetency.
first off, just so you know, I have a
There's some
constitutional
judgment
right
they
to
made.
propose
I don't know.
anything. But let me finish. I'm almost
Let me
done.
explain. One thing I found out from the conversation, the money they paid towards the Social Security to the employee at that time.
I checked into
the
that
money-
too.
The money's still there.
No, it's
They're going to
gone.
retrieve that. The money is still there. You cannot, once you pay to the Social Security, the money it'll apply to the credit, what is called earned credit.
You have to correct
Earned
the
credit,
record.
I know that.
either
I
way.
know that thing.
I-
It applies to earned credit, when they become 65 years
Read the
old.
documents, Raj. You
Yeah.
have to correct the documents anyway.
I
It doesn't
understand,
matter.
something they made.
The only
and-
difference is because everybody dragged their feet for so long, and
Okay,
legal
let's-
counsel
let's
did not
move on.
step up.
Let's,
I'm
let's,
almost done.
yeah.
Okay,
please.
so I took it upon myself. There's a new law called the Fiscal Integrity Act, House Bill 10, that was promoted by State Auditor Mr. Yost. And it's the Fiscal Integrity Act says, when an employee or an elected official fails to perform their duties as required under the statute, then they are personally liable out of their own pocket. So I am filing in the morning this sworn affidavit. Attached to it is significant evidence. Most significant in it is the quotation from the state auditor himself. So it's not going to be real hard for him to confirm that he recommended you all contact your attorney and call the IRS and fix the problem. And since you failed for 6 months to do that and still haven't done it, I will be filing this complaint with the auditor's office tomorrow. Also, what I found out was that we all have surety bonds. I'm asking you within the next 30 days to put in a claim against Ms. Harlow's surety bond, or if you determine that somebody else led on this issue and made the mistake, whether it's Mills or the law firm, that you put in a claim on their surety bond. If an action is not taken within the next 30 days, I will file it under a taxpayer action because we are going to get this money back. This law is specifically designed to make people do their jobs with diligence and good faith. 2 other people have been convicted on this under the auditor's program. One of them was convicted of a 5th-degree felony for failure to file tax returns and had to pay for the late fees. And she got, I don't know, I think she got 90 days house arrest. And another person in Lancaster also was convicted under this with a felony count. You're breaking federal laws with just talking off the top of your head when you don't know the answer. And you, all of you, just cost us $60,000, and I'm asking you, within the next 30 days, to file the appropriate forms with the surety company and get us our money back.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. That concludes the citizens' address. Next on the agenda is administrative reports.
I'm not sure that we have any administrative reports. Chief Denning, do you have an administrative report this evening? Nope, we have no administrative reports this evening.
Okay, let's move on to the trustees' reports. Wanna go first? Go.
I'd like to thank everybody who took the time to come up to our Memorial Day remembrance up at Colerain in Springdale at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. I'd like to thank President Raj, who I thought gave some very meaningful words, and Heather had very meaningful words also at the event. And I think things are going very well in the township. And over on Burnside, I happen to know that the final surface is being installed over there, so that project will be just about done. It's been a complete rehabilitation of all the streets, and it sounds like things are coming along over on Jackie's and Royal Heights, although I haven't driven through there in about 2 weeks. And thank you all for being here this evening, and I'll yield the rest of my time to you, Raj.
I'll yield the rest of my time to you, Raj. No, I just want to wish our grads the best of luck in their future endeavors. It's a fun time of year with all the graduation parties and everything. So get out there, support a grad.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of things to report, very important things. The next June meeting, I invited the Ohio Department of Transportation, and they're really working together with us. They're going to give some what the extensive strategic planning for the Colerain Avenue, what kind of plans they're going to have, and it's going to be very interesting. All the big boss people from Columbus will be coming. That's next June.
Yes, sir.
First meeting. I'll encourage you all come to attend that meeting to hear what the strategic planning for the ODOT for our township. They're very good people. Second thing, like last meeting, I mentioned about my hearts and desires about building a good youth programs in our township. And we talked about Jeff Mills, and he's happened to be a CEO of Boys and Clubs. He's a good friend of him, and he got excited, and we can make it happen. And now the second thing is funding, talking to some big people, how we can do the funding for the program. If that happens, that'd be a great thing for our township, have a great youth program. That's very important because we need to build a good leadership in our own community. Just like a young man came from the Scout, what amazing things. We'll build a young youth group with energetic, with a great aspiration to build our community, and we'll work hard to make it happen. When that's this report. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So we get to get into new business now, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Going to new business.
This is my favorite part. Okay, so we begin our new business with the Public Safety Department. Chief Denny will be presenting a motion to accept a donation.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Just have one item. It's a recommended adoption of a motion to accept a $100 donation from William Osterman It's provided to us in just an appreciation for vacation checks that the officers do.
I would motion that we accept the donation.
And I'll offer a second.
Any discussions?
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you for this. Would you please make a roll call?
Mr. Enscombe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thanks, Board.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
The next item on new business is in the Department of Planning and Zoning, and it's the typical resolution that declares nuisance and orders abatement of the following properties: 2395 Blue Lark, 2524 Chester Hill, 8230 Clara, 3142 Deschler, 9832 Dunraven, 6601 Flagstone, 2891 Hanoi, 2846 Honesdale, 2531 Impala, 2685 John Gray, 2961 Libra, 9838 Laura Linda, 9924 Laura Linda, 10098 Manistee, 3217 McGill, 10262 Menominee, 10833 Newmarket, 3108 Niagara, 8088 Peacock, 7639 Pippin, 10752 Shipley, 3174 Sovereign, 3604 Sweetwood, 8758 Venus, 8762 Venus, 10164 Windswept, 2920 Willow Ridge. The recommendation is to adopt the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement.
I have a motion that we do such a thing.
Second.
Any discussions?
Not for mine.
There's the list, so we're notifying, this is our formal notification during this advertised public meeting. So
Sir.
this is how we notify people.
In addition to the bright orange stickers on their doors.
Right.
Yep.
No other discussion from me.
Okay, anything?
No.
Heather, would you do the roll call,
Mr.
please?
Enscombe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is comes out of the Administration Department. This is really exciting. The recommendation is for the adoption of a motion that authorizes the execution of 2 contracts for the purchase and installation of LED streetlights in Colerain Township. Streetlights are a hot topic tonight. We heard from the Northbrook Group that they petitioned the township to create a brand-new street lighting district. And in that street lighting district, all of the residents that live in that district will be paying into that district and paying for the street lights. That's one type of lighting district that exists in Colerain. There's another type of lighting district which isn't necessarily a neighborhood or contiguous. These are the lights that you see at intersections and in dark spots along the road that are the subject of safety concerns. Those non-neighborhood lighting districts are paid for out of the township's general fund, right? And so there's approximately 371 of these lights throughout Colerain Township, and we're talking about the lights that hang on the utility poles that look like they're called Cobra head lights, right? Currently, the technology that's on those lights is very inefficient, and we explored the opportunity of converting those to LED. What that means for the township, what this project does is it replaces all 371 of those Cobra head style streetlights that are currently in the general lighting district. And we replace those with LED Cobra heads. The total cost of the project is $172,947.05. Currently, this is kind of staggering. The township spends about $42,000 each year in energy for the general lighting districts. $42,000. After this project, that energy expense will be reduced to $9,000 per year.
Excellent.
Right? The project, therefore, pays for itself within 6 years, and over the next 15 years, this project will save the township, will pay back the initial investment of the project, but then save, on top of that, $470,000.
At least 470,
Right.
theoretically.
Yeah. So, this project was contemplated in our 2019 strategic plan. This cost was budgeted, was appropriated for this purpose, and it was actually budgeted at $215,935, but we were able to work with Duke and get those costs down. So it's come in approximately $43,000 under budget.
Excellent.
So the recommendation is to adopt a motion authorizing the execution of the 2 contracts that are found in the packet.
I'll make the motion.
And now,
Go ahead.
I will second it.
Any discussions?
Not for mine.
This is all very well spelled out in the agenda, and I see it here. No other discussion from me.
I think it's a good thing that we're moving forward to the brighter Colerain Township. Hopefully this, like I said at the beginning, Northbrook, and I see a lot of neighborhood, Colerain Avenue get more brighter, and they also saves a lot of money in using the LED lights. In the long run, it's a good idea.
And I think that the quality of light is better. You know, the typical light that you see has that yellow hue and kind of washes out color.
I can tell you that the village that we're associated with has just done, and they're already realizing not only the saving costs, but also the community has been very excited.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
Yep.
Yes, it's the village of North Bend has just completed this throughout their entire village, and they've received a lot of positive feedback with respect to the lights.
Yep. It's going to be a great project.
Any further discussions?
Not from I.
Heather, would you please?
Mr. Ensco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have 3 items. The first is a contract with Creighton University for EMS training. We say it all the time, it's real. Colerain Township has one of the best departments of fire and EMS in the country, and people come from Creighton University to study under our police and fire. I mean, they come all the way from there. It's pretty impressive. So I signed the contract that it was a no-cost contract to the township, and it allows Creighton University students to come and study how we do business. The second 2 were new hires. The first one, both of which were included in the org chart. We're just filling spots. So the first is a summer camp counselor in public services. The position was posted. We received applications, conducted interviews, and we extended a conditional offer of employment to Megan Gary for summer camp counselor. The wage for this job is $9.50 per hour for 24 hours per week. If you, with the approval of the consent agenda tonight, she'll begin work on May 29th. Tomorrow. And then the second new hire is for a seasonal maintenance worker. That position was also included in the org chart. It was posted, applications were received, and interviews conducted. We extended a conditional offer of employment to Cody Brown. The wage for this job is $11 per hour for 40 hours per week through the season. It's a seasonal job, and it's contingent upon board approval. They'd be eligible to begin work tomorrow, May 29th. Recommendation is to, as always, approve the items on the consent agenda.
You have a motion?
I will motion that we do such a thing.
I second. Any discussions?
Yeah, I was thinking about line iteming these out again, just because I've been cautious to abstain from anything dealing with the park program. I will be volunteering there again this summer, just like I did last year. But that would be my only.
I think that makes good sense.
Should we go individual consent
Motion
item?
to amend the agenda?
I think you can go ahead and just do them line item because they're already on the agenda separately.
Separate.
So you can go ahead and just do
So I call for a vote on the
separately.
Creighton contract, I guess.
Sure. So I believe
Is
that
that
a
right?
motion was made already
Right.
to consider the consent agenda as one.
Then I go ahead and just vote on that to shoot that down and then go ahead and do them line item.
Yep. So if you want to do them line item, there's already a motion. The vote would be.
That's true. I mean, if
You can just abstain on the whole thing.
well, I could abstain on the whole thing. It's probably
However you want to do it.
yeah. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll make it a little simpler on you.
So no further discussions?
No, that's fine.
Not from my.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ensco?
Abstain.
And Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Board. That's all the new business we have this evening.
Thank you.
Let's go off.
All right, we are going to not do the payroll purchase orders and receipts this time. We'll save that for the first meeting of the month. The second item I have is for a liquor permit, and I've spoken with Chief Denny and Mrs. LeCount about this. It's a new permit for Colerain Spirits, Inc., DBA Airy Pony Keg at 7539 Colerain Avenue. And we have both the permit for the agency, so they are like a state liquor agency, and then also for the carryout liquor license. We have two permits for one location, and they're both new. So if the board agrees, we can sign that we do not need a hearing and send it on back.
So we need to have a motion for this approval of,
We've never done a motion for this, so it's just more that the board agrees.
okay.
So, and I assume that you all do.
I have no objection.
Okay,
Not-
Same.
all right.
Okay,
Now, before we adjourn, I recommend that the board make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment and compensation of public employees. In accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3,
This last one.
to discuss pending or imminent litigation with the township attorney, and in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8,
To discuss the TIF statute.
to discuss the TIF statute 5709.43 to protect the interests of a possible investment
Of public funds.
of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project,
As it is necessary.
as it is necessary.
Are we expecting to take action? Do we need to?
I don't know. It's possible.
okay. So we are,
I would motion that we go into executive session for the reasons you've described.
I second. Any discussions on that?
There may be action taken when we come back out, so please stand by.
Okay, go roll call.
Ms. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye. I would motion that we end executive session.
I'll offer a second.
Okay, any discussions?
No?
Other roll call, please?
Ms. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Jeff Mills, anything to report?
There's nothing to report.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to motion that we amend the agenda to talk about an employment item.
I'll offer a second.
Any discussions?
Not on this item, no.
Not on this item, no.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. I would like to motion that we discuss the hiring of a 16-hour-a-week, year-round, code enforcement officer.
The permanent part-time code enforcement,
Part-time code enforcement officer. So is that
it's currently on the job, on the organizational chart.
it's currently on the organizational chart the information is on the organizational chart, the job description, the hourly salary, and the 16 hours a week. So do I need to motion to name that person or to start the discussion? Scott?
No, I mean, you can go ahead, and if you have, if someone you want to, a name or.
Yeah, I would say that you would want to make a motion to
I'll make some-
hire X.
I would motion that we would hire Laura Dakin as a 16-hour-a-week, please stop, please, that we hire Laura Dakin as a 16-hour-a-week code enforcement officer to start after June 1st which I guess Monday is the 3rd, that time frame, if that works with
So the
her.
start date is June 3rd?
Is that a Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that we would hire her to start on June 3rd at the description described in our organizational chart, which allows us to fill that position and at that hourly rate, and I would ask for a second.
I'll offer a second.
Any discussions? Okay,
I think I've discussed what my intentions are, and I think she's going to do a fine job if she accepts a position. And I think code enforcement is the one thing that I've seen in my 16 or 17 months here. It's what I get the most calls on, and I think a lot of positive things have been done with our code enforcement. It's just we're really stacked up, and I'm looking for good help. So.
I guess I would reflect that sentiment. The reality is, code enforcement is a huge part of cleaning this place up, and everybody wants us to clean the place up. So most things in life aren't free. They cost money. This is not a huge drain on the budget by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely something that I feel is needed. As far as the hiring of who there, I got nothing but great feedback on the applicants, and I do know one of them through township involvement, not through anything other than that, and that would be Laura. I've known her long enough, and it never crossed my mind to recommend her to be hired for this, or to even think, hey, Laura, you should apply for this position. That never crossed my mind. And I guess Dan, in one of his meetings with her, had seen something in her that he really liked and thought, wow, she'd be great for this position. So all the credit for the thought process behind this would certainly go to Dan. But I think it's a good idea. If there's anybody that's certainly worked hard enough to deserve or earn a position, whether it was originally there or not, it's definitely her. You know, look at the volunteer time and hours she puts in this community. I'm sure she'll still do that, but I could not think of someone more involved that would do a better job. So I would intend to support her and in this particular position. Yeah.
Laura involved in this community. She knows this community. We believe that she'll do a good job. Okay. Any further questions?
No, but is this all
Yeah.
by process is correct?
Yes.
Okay. No more discussion from I.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Inscoe?
Ro-
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Motion carries. Do we
Okay.
need to,
Any other further, then call for the adjournment of the meetings. Thank you for attending the
We have
meeting.
to vote. We have to vote.
I would motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Law for a second.
Any discussions or anything?
None from I.
Thank you all
Roll
for being
call,
here.
please.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Thank you all for
Thank
sticking
you.
around.
Thank you.